The state government says this is among its precautionary measures following the detection of COVID-19 variants from China in Malaysia.
While face masks are not mandatory for the general public, the Perlis government encouraged using face masks in crowded spaces. It also urged people to regularly wash their hands and return to using hand sanitizers when out in public spaces. The announcement follows a similar mask mandate for food and beverage workers in Selangor, which took effect last Sunday. Melaka has also considered reintroducing the mask mandate in public spaces and crowded areas if there is an increase in COVID-19 cases.
Meanwhile, a police inspector was charged in the Sungai Petani Sessions Court for raping a minor in a police station last month. Muhammad Maliki Azmi pleaded not guilty to the charge, which upon conviction provides for a jail term of up to 20 years and whipping.
Muhammad Maliki, as the investigating officer of a case, allegedly raped the 16-year-old girl at the Yan District Police Headquarters on December 28, 2022. Earlier, the accused claimed trial to 3 other charges relating to sexual assault against the minor. The court granted him a 10,000 ringgit bail with 1 surety for the rape charge and 15,000 ringgit with 1 surety for all 3 sexual assault charges. He was also prohibited from disturbing the minor and ordered to hand over his passport to the court, which has fixed February 6 for a lawyer appointment and submission of documents.
Following that, Home Minister Datuk Seri Saifuddin Nasution Ismail says investigations on the case should be allowed to undergo due process. He said he has been briefed on the matter by Inspector General of Police Tan Sri Akral Sani Abdullah Sani.
They should be given to proceed with the investigation if there is a need. I believe there is a strong basis for the police to start the investigation. And yes, to answer your question, the IGP has given me a full briefing yesterday.
Yesterday, Kedah Police Chief Datuk Wan Hassan Wan Ahmad said transparent investigations on the case will be undertaken by senior officers from the Kedah Contingent Headquarters. Once the probe is completed, he said investigation papers would be submitted to the State Prosecution Office Director as soon as possible for further action. International Trade and Industry Minister Tengku Datuk Seri Zafrul Aziz says there was nothing suspicious in the Perikatan Nasional-led government's management of funds when it was in power. He was speaking during an interview with CNBC earlier today.
You were Finance Minister during the Muhyiddin administration.
Yeah, there are no irregularities, but I'm here to ready to cooperate if they are. If I'm called by the relevant agencies. We are very transparent. Like I said, we have a weekly report. It's never done before. We actually publish to the media. We publish obviously to the public as well.
On a separate matter, Zafrul is also confident that Malaysia has a strong footing to attract quality investments, especially in light of China's reopening its borders, and expects ringgit to strengthen further in 2023. The government, he said, will also continue to take part in the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership (CPTPP), with the Prime Minister himself having signed all the necessary administrative agreements to ensure exports and imports can continue under the ratified 11-member free trade deal. The Defence Ministry will see through the completion of the Littoral Combat Ship LCS ship project for the Navy to strengthen its defence of national waters. Defence Minister Datuk Seri Mohamad Hassan said his ministry's aim was to complete the ships by July 2024. Mohamad said he hoped at least 4 ships will be completed during his tenure as minister. He added that he had consulted the Finance and Economy Ministries to better understand the actual situation surrounding the LCS project. Mohamad also said Malaysia's defence development capacity would continue with government allocations to his ministry, amounting to 17.4 billion ringgit for operating and development expenditure. This involves a total of 281 procurement plans with an estimated value of 8 billion ringgit for the Armed Forces military asset maintenance and supplies. The Prime Minister recently announced that Sabah and Sarawak are now able to approve any development project worth 50 million ringgit or less without needing approval from the federal level. While Professor James Chin welcomes the move, he urged the government to pay close attention to core issues outlined under the MA 63 as well.
One of the problems with development funding to Sarawak is that they're subject to the normal finance regulation imposed by the Ministry of Finance. So a lot of the projects were held up, especially for small things like building school blocks, repairs of essential schools, hospitals, that sort of thing. So by putting the power back into Kuching and Kota Kinabalu, we can expect a lot of this project will move at a faster rate. I think the bigger issue is what are they going to do with the core fundamental issues on the MA63 grievances. So a lot of these issues like giving more financial autonomy to Sabah and Sarawak, and we can expect more announcements, especially in the areas of education and health. These are not the core issues. The core issue is actually the special grants, who owns the continental shelves, what is the status of PDA 74, Petronas' right to oil and gas in Sabah and Sarawak. So those are much more difficult issues. I don't expect UNRWA will have the ability to resolve the big issues, but all these small issues are really issues that sort of improve the livelihood of the people in Sabah and Sarawak. Any additional funds going to Sabah and Sarawak is always a good thing, because those two states, in terms of infrastructure development, is really, really far behind Peninsular Malaysia. In the future, all federal government, regardless of whether it's Perikatan, Pakatan, or whoever, they do understand that these sort of sentiments are very, very strong in Sabah and Sarawak, and whoever is in federal government will have to deal with it.
If left unaddressed, the pace of brain drain within the medical workforce will continue to weaken our public health system and ultimately affect the quality of care provided to patients. Tonight on Consider This, we ask the guests what needs to be done. We go for a quick break. Stay with us.
Mata said calls to outright shut Malaysian borders to travellers from China is irresponsible.
The government has no plans to fix air ticket prices as it could negatively affect passengers.
Employers with less than 5 employees will only have to start paying the minimum wage from July 2023.
순양물산 미래자산관리팀 윤현우 팀장입니다. 윤 팀장, 2번 말하게 하는 법이 없는 친구입니다. 고졸 특채 출신이라면서요. 딱 만난 스펙 아니야? 막 부리기 쉽잖아. 그러셨습니까? 여권 있죠? 가서 해외로 유출돼 순양의 자산을 찾아오세요. 최선을 다하겠습니다, 부회장님. 누굽니까?
Reborn Rich, setiap Selasa dan Rabu di One.
Welcome back. The number of COVID-19 cases continue to rise in China, causing a hospital in East Beijing to run out of beds by Thursday morning. The surge in severely ill people requiring hospital care follows the country's shift from its zero-COVID policy last month.
Ambulances continue to bring new patients to the Chui Yang Liu Hospital, but many of them, mostly senior citizens, have been left in wheelchairs or stretchers in the hallways as they wait for beds. China has sought to vaccinate more of its elderly population, but such efforts have been hampered by past scandals involving fake medications and previous warnings about the adverse reactions to the vaccines among older people. Over the past week, several countries have responded to China's loosening COVID-19 rules through a variety of restrictions towards travellers from China. The World Health Organization has also cited concerns over the lack of outbreak data from the Chinese government.
Still on China, the country will reopen its border with Hong Kong on Sunday, ending 3 years of pandemic restrictions that have isolated the financial hub from the Chinese mainland. The move is part of a major easing of pandemic rules, the latest step by China to unwind its controversial zero-COVID policy. Hong Kong residents travelling to the Chinese mainland will no longer have to quarantine or undergo a COVID-19 test. China will also cancel flight capacity limits from Hong Kong and Macau, as well as resume flight transit to the mainland from the two cities. It will also resume issuing travel and business visas for mainland residents to travel to Hong Kong. Both Hong Kong and China stuck to zero-COVID policies, which kept families separated, cut off tourism, and severed most business travel, with Hong Kong hit especially hard and ending 2022 in a deep recession. City leader John Lee said that the latest move will have a very big impact on Hong Kong's battered economy. He said from Sunday, up to 60,000 Hong Kong residents will be able to enter the mainland by sea, air or land checkpoints. According to the government data, more than 236 million trips a year were made across the border before the pandemic. Meanwhile, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, in his first major speech of 2023 on Wednesday, pledged to halve inflation, grow the UK economy and stop illegal immigration. In a speech setting out the Conservative government's priorities for the year ahead, Sunak focused on tackling the UK's slowing economy and made promises to reduce national debt. Since Sunak replaced Truss in late October, the UK economy has calmed, but he still faced a cost of living crisis and widening labour unrest as key public sector workers staged disruptive strikes to demand better pay to keep pace with soaring inflation. Inflation in the UK stood at 10.7% in November, which is down slightly from October, but that's still near the highest in 4 decades. Advisories and evacuation orders are in place for some parts of Northern California as a major storm approaches the coast. California's governor has also declared a state of emergency for the storm, the second to drench the state this week. Regions that were previously hit by wildfires were among the first places ordered to evacuate due to concerns of landslides and floods. Meanwhile, the National Weather Service issued warnings for the Bay Area, expecting strong winds to down trees and cause power outages. Classes have been cancelled for Thursday in school districts throughout north of the state, including for the 8,000 students enrolled in San Francisco public schools. Forecasters say the storm will form into a bomb cyclone, a type of rapidly intensifying storm capable of causing fatalities. On Saturday, San Francisco experienced record rainfall, making it the second wettest day in over 170 years and resulting in neighborhood flooding and landslides. Meanwhile, tens of thousands of mourners have gathered at St. Peter's Square in Vatican City for the funeral of Pope Benedict XVI. The funeral mass was led by Pope Francis, with European royals and other clerics in attendance. It is unprecedented in modern times for a living pope to bury his predecessor. An estimated 195,000 people have already paid their respects during the 3 days of lying in state at the Basilica. Benedict died on Saturday, aged 95, after many years of illness. In 2013, he became the first pope to resign in 6 centuries, citing old age. He will be buried in a crypt beneath St. Peter's Basilica, which holds the tombs of more than 90 other popes. That is all we have for you on AWANI tonight. I'm Farhana Sheikh. Thank you for watching.
순양물산 미래자산관리팀